And we are live. Welcome back to Pistons Jack Fan Reacts, where we'll be going through a bit of a disappointing loss tonight in Denver. I'll have my man Kyle Metz up here in just a moment to talk through the game and a couple of other talking points. But the Pistons fall to Denver on the road, 121 to 134. The fourth game of the West Coast trip where they go 3-1. So I think the overall sense from this road trip is still very, very positive, even if there's a couple of points to address regarding lineups and that kind of thing. But I will get into the game with Kyle, but I think before we get into like specific talking points, I think most fans, I'll get to some comments in here in just a moment, but I think we should all still be very happy with the way things are trending. 3-1, 14 and 18 overall, I believe. I'm not sure if they're still ninth in the standings. I'm just looking it up now because the Bulls won. So tied with the Bulls at ninth at 14 and 18. So they're still in that similar position to where they've been for much of the season. But I think those 3 wins in a row, particularly the Lakers and Phoenix ones, were really, really positive. And then the Kings game, they stole that. That's like a win good teams get. Where you just steal it, and the Kings kind of fumbled that. But I think everyone should be still feeling really positive. There are plenty of positives out of tonight's game, I thought, even though it was pretty miserable until the fourth quarter. But yeah, I think Dan says, my man, white guy next door, what did I just watch? That was a pathetic showing by the Pistons' regular rotation. Only reason we weren't blown out by 30 plus is because our bench, minus Beasley, Stew, and Tech, came to play today. Yeah. So I'll talk about that with Kyle. He's trying to join, but his internet's slow. That's fine. Yeah. So those 5 guys. So JB, I may as well get into it now. We can keep talking about it with Kyle when he pops on. But I think to start the fourth quarter, JB went with Marcus Sasser, Wendell Moore Jr., Ron Holland, Asar Thompson, and B-Ball Paul. And those guys got it from what was like a 23-point to 25-point deficit. I think they got it back to single digits for a second there, and made the final score much more respectable. But that was fun. And look, Kyle's just joined me now, so we'll talk through it a bit more. But Kyle, what's going on, man?
What's up, Jack? My bad, man. I'm at my parents' house, so internet can always be a little spotty, you know what I'm saying?
No stress at all. I was just about to ask. It looks like you're at a new location.
Yep, chilling at the fam. So,
how good, man. Thoughts on tonight's game?
yeah, I mean, the first half was entertaining, and I felt like it was going to be pretty close. Like they were playing pretty competitive. It seemed like, and they just let it get away from them in the third. It really seemed like that sequence with Russ, like, just made a big difference. And just in terms of the energy and the vibe, I think it is a 10-day road trip. And I remember, I think I put us on Twitter or something with Bryce or Blue Sky, whatever, but like they seem tired, they're getting caught on screens. They're not making the extra effort to get out on shooters. And so you could just tell, I think the road trip had just gotten to them. They're a lot of young guys. So that's, I think, the biggest thing that I saw from this was just they were tired. So I don't think too much from it, but we could talk about the fourth quarter in a little bit. But it was cool to see those guys make a run. Whenever you want to get to this, we can circle back to that. But overall, the game was mildly entertaining, but not surprising result based on a 10-day road trip. So.
Yeah, no, I think you raised 2 really good points there. The travel, and I think Special K highlighted on the broadcast. Like he said, pretty much what you said in the sense of like it's a 10-day road trip, and they look tired. And it's not so much that they're playing back to backs or that, but it's just the entirety of the trip, the travel involved. It's 10 days is a while. Like I don't know if I just think about it, if I'm just getting on a plane, traveling somewhere, like it is tiring. I'm not making excuses, but I think that's certainly something to raise at least as a reason for the lack of energy in the starting group. But yeah, that moment with Russ was that kind of early third quarter. I think it was around 10 to 12 points margin. And yeah, Russ, if he was on the Pistons team, I would have loved what he was doing, but I thought he was just being a bit of a clown. But whatever he did, he sparked his team. And I think we're all hoping it would spark the Pistons, and they would come back. But instead, not long after that, Stu gets a technical. Then Cade shoves Russ, I think, or maybe they were the other way around, and it kind
At
of
least
got
that's what
out
the
of
ref
control
said.
from.
You know.
Yeah. It kind of got out of control from there. I think Cade got a technical as well going to the bench when he checked out. So it's kind of what a young team would do in that situation. Maybe a team with more veteran type star players would take that the other way and run with it. But the Pistons kind of crumbled a little bit. And yeah, I think we'll get to the bench, but you're right. I was probably a bit harsh. I said it was a pretty miserable game for the most part. But the first half, up until the last 2 minutes of that half, they were actually right in it. I kind of forgot about it because the third quarter was so bad.
Right. Yeah. I think, and specifically what you mentioned with like the young players, and I think what it was is that the Nuggets got all the calls in that few exchanges. Like Russ got to literally, I think they got the one call against Russ. And he was complaining like whether it was a foul or out of bounds or whatever it was, and then he got to push several guys, no repercussion, and then Cade gets the offensive foul on they're both being physical, and he gets to walk through the whole bench screaming at the whole bench for like a solid minute, no tech. And then the minute that Stu gets in his face afterwards, it's an immediate tech. And it's just like, what are we doing? And so I think that's where the frustration like got boiled over because they didn't get the benefit of those calls more so than what Russ was doing. Like I think everyone was like, you're a clown. They were basically ignoring him for the first, several exchanges. And then the refs kind of letting it escalate to the point where the Pistons didn't get any of the benefit from it. So I think that's where it probably was the refs are against us, and they let that get in their heads and let it spiral rather than just taking control of the situation, which is unfortunate. They had already come out flat in the second half, so that wasn't like the thing, but it pushed them over the edge, right? They were already teetering once the second half started, and they just kind of crumbled. So,
yeah, but yeah, you could kind of feel like the momentum shift. Like I was like the optimistic person who was hoping that would like spark them, but you kind of felt like it just wasn't their night. Like you said, they came out, the energy wasn't too different in the third. And I kind of felt like it wasn't Cade's best game. I think he was good in the first quarter, second quarter, and third. Didn't do a whole lot. Settling for threes, which kind of feeds back into maybe he's just tired. That's like kind of what he does. I would like to see him shoot his mid-range jumper a little bit more. Thought he had some opportunities, but felt like he was settling a bit. But I want to talk about the fourth quarter because I'm going to bring one of your comments up here that I just saw. Sounds like a start Paul Reed campaign to me. I know you're saying this with a bit of sarcasm, but Paul Reed, Ron Holland, Asar Thompson were really impressive. Marcus Sasser, I thought, did some stuff defensively, even if he had some turnovers. And Wendell Moore was sound as well. Those five guys got it from like, what was it, 25-point deficit? And all the way down to like 9 or 7 points, which was huge. Like the Denver had to bring back in their starters. They were using all their timeouts. They had no timeouts left with 5 minutes to go. So they were awesome. Just talk to me about what you saw there, and then I want to talk about the rotation with you as well.
I wasn't surprised that it happened when it happened, when they brought the bench in. It was when it started getting with like 4 or 5 minutes left and they were down like 9 or 10 and they were teetering. I'm like, if this gets to 7, he has to put his starters in, right? Like you can't, you almost can't. And my thing was, I get the message he was sending. Like these guys are getting us here. We're going to let them play it out. And I understand why he did what he did. But I think it could also have like a reverse or what's the word I'm thinking of? Like the unintended consequences of that, or it's kind of proving the opposite point almost by not bringing in Cade or like for Wendell Moore, right? Like you're almost counterintuitively communicating this game's already over. We're just going to let you guys run garbage time versus they got the lead back within 10. Why are you not putting your best player back in and like giving them a chance? Like let those guys still be in, but okay, Wendell Moore wasn't exactly lighting it up, right? Or like whatever, like just get a real point guard in there. Like bring Cade in and let these guys run and see what happens. Or Ivy, like I don't care who it is. Like Cade wasn't having a great game. Ivy was pretty efficient. So like maybe it's Ivy you bring in. But I think that's where I was a little disappointed, even though I understood what he was trying to do. He basically said this game is worthless going into the fourth quarter and almost didn't. Like, you almost don't reward those guys, like, because they're tired. Like, there's no way they're going to be able to play for a full quarter and keep up with the Denver starters. Like, I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong. I could see it. Maybe it's not that important. And maybe this is more important in the long run. You give this game up to prove that point. But I think, if anything, you say, hey, these guys busted their butt. You go out there and you help bring them home, kind of thing. But it's a hard decision. So that's where I kind of felt like there was a missed opportunity where they could have actually stole one here. Because it was like 5 minutes left and they were down 9 or something. So it wasn't like it was a minute left. Like nowhere, like Cade got rest, give him the last 4 minutes. That's a pretty normal rotation. Like keep Paul Reed in, keep these guys in. But I don't know. That's where I would have done something different.
It's really interesting because it's such a fine balance because you're like, well, the starters didn't have the energy. This unit has had the energy and got it all the way back to 9 or 7. Like, do you just bring back in your starters who have now sat for longer than they normally would? And maybe they're kind of not ice cold, but colder than they would usually be because of the extended rest. Like but I get the thinking behind what you're saying because it's like, well, these guys in all going to be cooks now because they've just been going all out, cutting a deficit by like nearly 20 points against Denver's bench and starters. So to be in that situation, I think is a positive considering how bad it was to start the fourth and a credit to those guys. But yeah, maybe you just could have put Cade in. Like maybe you just put one of him or I mean, I think Ivy, I'm not sure how he'd go in that situation, even though he's been playing well. But yeah, it's weird. I think he definitely proved his point. I actually, when I first saw that lineup, I thought he was just waving the white flag, but come to think of it, it obviously makes more sense. He was trying to prove a point about the effort and defensive intensity. But just like, I think we should give Paul Reed some love. Like all 5 of those guys were solid, but Paul Reed, his stats, I think he had 7 points, 4 steals, a block, couple of rebounds, couple of assists. Like he was big in the Kings game as well with some key shots. Like his jumper as well, a couple of mid-range jumpers over Jokic. You can see Jokic
ugly.
being like, what is this? But they were like swishes, man. So some thoughts on Paul Reed.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty low on Paul Reed to begin the season. Partly just because he was so awkward and you didn't really see a lot of his value. Like even when he came in, it just wasn't a rhythm, whatever it was. I don't know. And so it's nice to see him play like he has been, especially on this cheaper contract that we talked about last time we were on. But so it's just kind of funny. It's like, okay, literally this guy has been basically a cap, mechanics pickup. And I heard all often he's overqualified to be the third big. And I'm like, so far I have not seen it. And then he, after he gets cut, then he goes on this run of the last 4 or 5 games of like, okay, like he does the dirty work, he does the effort stuff, which I think we wouldn't see it as much of a contrast if it wasn't comparing to Duren. Like honestly, I think part of the love that he's getting is like you're just everything that Duren isn't. Like, and for what it's worth, like that matters. I don't know, man. Like it was fun to see him, like especially on the defensive end. He makes stuff happen. He has a little bit of that quality, like Ron Holland, where it's like it looks like a ball of chaos and it doesn't look coordinated, but man, you figure out a way to get something done, and I can't hate you for it. So I'd love to see him get more time. Like that tonight made me much more comfortable if they have to trade Duren at the deadline. That if they just need to bring in a third center, like go call JaVale McGee up again. I don't care. Like they don't need to find like a starting center to come in necessarily this season. you can run with Stu and Paul Reed and have a workable rotation. Depending on who, but you know what I'm saying. So I'm not like, if we lose Duran, I'm not losing sleep. I guess is the point. But yeah, man, it was fun to watch him. Even if it's awkward, but he does get stuff done. So
Yeah. No, I agree. It's awkward, but he's so good at getting deflections, like 4 steals for a center. Like, I know he's undersized, and like if they lose Duran, whether it's to trade or injury or something, like they are going to be severely undersized. But the thing I do really like about Stu and Paul Reed as your centers is like they're just so like there's an element of quickness to them and just versatility. Like at least if you're going to be undersized, like neither of them are plotters. Like I know Stu's not quick up and down the court necessarily, but he's quick laterally. And so same with Paul Reed. So there's a certain way you can play with those two. But yeah, shout out to Paul Reed. I think you summed it up well. Like similar to Ron, like it doesn't often look like the most coordinated, but whether they're making like a mid-range jumper, a tough shot at the rim, getting a steal, like they just have a knack for kind of making these awkward plays and converting them. And
Ron Holland's jumper was looking nice tonight. Sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, you
no,
mentioned it. It's like he had a couple nice mid ranges. He had a good three. Like everything looked good tonight. Like he didn't. I might have missed a few early on, but like he seemed like pretty efficient offensively,
yeah,
which
no,
is
he was.
good
He
sign.
had 12 points on like 60% field goal. Yeah, like you said, mid-range, a three. I think I saw forgetting his name. He does stuff for Palace of Pistons. Jason. It's bad of me. He tweeted out though a couple of games ago, Ron in his last 10 games was shooting like 50% from the floor and 40% from three. So I'm going to double check those numbers, but I trust that those
Yeah.
were correct. Like,
He seems to
because
be eliminating the chuck. You know, he's not just chucking
yes,
now. Like he's finding his space in the offense. He's taking opportunities when he can. He's the fast break merchant. Like he's doing that kind of stuff, and with mostly within the flow of the offense. He's not just getting his he was good for one or two a game early on, maybe four, where he was just like, I'm just gonna do it. And now you see it's
yeah,
like one or two a game maybe,
yeah.
like where he might just go for it, but for the most part it seems in rhythm with the offense.
Yeah, much more in control. And yeah, like you said, in rhythm with the offense, decision making's improved dramatically from where it was. Like you said at the start of the year, like it felt like he'd have 4 or 5, whether it was 3 turnovers and 2 like kind of questionable fouls. Like he's really reined it in. While we're talking about Ron, may as well talk about Asar as well. Like, because I was like I said, they were down 25 at the start of the fourth, and if you were looking for something to watch for in that fourth quarter, as soon as I saw Asar and Ron on the floor together, I'm like, this is going to be fun. Like, this game sucks. They're probably going to lose, but I just love watching those two play together. I know about the offensive issues, like, and that kind of thing, but watching them just fly around the court is so fun.
Listen, fast breaks are just as efficient as 3-point shots. I'm just telling you that. So
Yeah.
if you're getting a steal every other possession, you're getting runouts. I mean, you don't need a space to the floor. You just, you know what I mean? Like, because there's no half court offense. And they didn't really suffer in the half court too much. Like, there were a few Paul Reed saving, Paul Reed and Ron Holland had a few, like, just mid range, like, okay, I guess they're doing this now. Just save the half court offense. But, like, yeah, you have two guys who can get steals and can get runouts and have pretty good vision. You're not as reliant on the half court. So that's the idea there, I think. Like that's one way to make them work together. And yeah, it looked good. It was fun to watch. Asar looks like he's back to he's back. I think it seems like he's up to speed for the most part. I mean, he played the whole fourth quarter. That's a good sign. So yeah, I think, he had that awesome, he pulled that guy out of his sneakers and then
That
yammed
was
on him.
crazy.
And he should have had an and one. Like he got smacked on the arm, and he just looks explosive, So yeah, it's cool to see him. And I think he grabbed a few rebounds over Jokic in the fourth too. So he's battling in there. So he seems like he's definitely getting to where you want to see him. And so I think that's encouraging.
For sure. That crossover, or it was like double crossover dunk, like that was on Peyton Watson, who's actually like a really good defender. Like and like I
Yeah, he's
saw
a good athlete too. Yeah.
Exactly, but Asar, you just see like he literally rised above him, like literally. Um, that kind of ties in. There's a lot of comments in here just talking about the starting lineup. Derek Brown says here, think it's time for a new starting lineup. Very pleased with how we've been playing though. And I've got some lineup data here. I just quickly did before we went live, but I'll get to that in a second. But just with what we are seeing. Is there a change you'd make in the starting lineup? Is there multiple?
So hard. Because on one hand, if the bench is working, which it seems to be working, you don't want to necessarily toy with that too much. Like that's a real, in my opinion, like they got a good bench unit, but at the same time, they do often come out flat, and you do see some issues with the starting unit. I think Asar takes THJ's spot in the starting lineup before like too long, especially because Ivy's still shooting well from three. Whether teams play him like that or not, I don't know. But I would not be surprised just because the defense has been lacking, and Duran is not a good defender, right? So you need someone who's going to actually be able to help Duran not have to make up for that.
Yeah.
Cade's been playing good on defense, and Tobias is also a little questionable, like on defense at this point. So like having a star there that can help clean up some stuff, I think could be helpful. It might be more beneficial to bring Stu into the starting lineup and Asar so that you're getting even more spacing potential and using Asar more as a roll man so that Stu can pop. And then you put, that bench unit would be awful though with THJ, Beasley, and Duran all. Like that could be somewhat
Yeah.
disastrous, but I guess with Ron Holland there, in that mix, that's a lot of spacing around Ron because it's basically going to be Cade or Ivy with Beasley, THJ. Maybe, Tech is kind of in that rotation. So, yeah, I could see it happening, but there's a reason JB hasn't yet. I don't know what those are. We're not seeing those things in practice, but if Stu's going to be a long-term backup five, bring him into the starting lineup may not help him. And so I don't know. Man. But I think if Asar continues to play this way, like at some point, he probably earns that starting spot.
I agree. I think he's the one that comes in, and the more I'm watching how this season unfolds for a particular player, the more I don't know if it'll happen, but I think, and I'm going to shout out Austin's been on here. I would really like to see Asar replace Tobias in the starting lineup because, and I know I didn't think this would happen just because of the contract and that kind of thing, but I think Tobias and the way he plays at this point of his career, if he's not going to hit threes consistently, is more suited to being like your first wing off the bench, and he can post up there. He can post up against lesser players. You can not run the offense through him, but you can get him more looks against lesser talent and take the pressure off him because I know he's got that wrist injury, but he does and I was never expecting him to be good defensively, but I think on offense, and this is Austin's point as well. I just want to make sure I shout him out. Like he's just too kind of slow for how this team needs to play. Like the way, and you mentioned it, like fast break points are just as efficient as open threes, or is that what you said? I don't want to misquote you, but
something like that. Thing. Yeah.
But like, I don't know if it happens, but if I was coach, that would be the move I would make. Because THJ, I can get to this lineup data. He's the guy who bears out the worst. Like, there's actually he's seemed him and Tobias. One of those two is by advanced metrics, which I'm probably not going to just read them all out to everyone here, but those two are kind of the problem. But I just believe in THJ spacing and keeping Beasley off the bench, particularly if you want to bring in Asar. Yeah, I think that would be the move I would make. but
Yeah, I
I
could
think it's
see that.
also the least least likely. But I think there's some real value in Tobias coming off the bench and it not being this like huge deal. Like I think he could
Right.
actually get more opportunities there and help the team more, and still play like 26 minutes a night, maybe.
Yeah, I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance that that could happen. And Tobias has been nothing but a team guy. Not that THJ isn't either. Like, but I mean, like, I can see a world where that happens. And Asar might still be best suited for the four right now in the way he offensively. Um, it's just interesting, yeah, because I would say they both space the floor in the sense that like teams guard them as shooters, right? Even if Tobias has been bad or have been off,
Yeah.
like teams still guard him that way. So it doesn't really matter whether he's hitting them right now or not in that sense. Tobias is a guy that can go get you a bucket when you need to, and sometimes they lean on him to do that. Um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I would be hesitant with that, but I guess I would rather the bench lineup does make a little more sense with Beasley and Tobias than Beasley and THJ.
Yeah.
So I can see a world where that is the thing. I do think Tobias gets a bad rap more than he should. And this is holdover from Sixers people, and this is like, everyone looks at the price tag and it's like, how is this guy getting paid this for what he does? The dude is still playing. He's still better statistically this season than Paul George. So let's chill out, okay? He is what he is, and you weren't going to spend that money on anything else, and he wants to be here. So everyone needs to just chill, because Sixers fans ran him out of town in the first place, and that was part of the issue. So all that being said, I understand the frustration, but I don't think he's been as bad as what people think. And partly because we haven't needed him to be what we thought he might need to be, because Ivy has really stepped up and shown he can carry that number 2 for now. So anyway, I think I could see that. I think him being on the bench could be strategically beneficial. I'm worried what would happen from an offensive standpoint if Asar replaces him.
Yeah.
Like, how does that change how teams defend, especially if Duran is still in the lineup? Because teams are not going to they're going to leave Asar open in the corner. They don't do that to Tobias, so you'd have to entirely change the offense. Versus if you do that with
Well,
THJ,
what if they do what you said though, and they go, "All right, we're going to start Stu." Then we're talking. That's a bit better, but I still think Stu's not going to get guarded from the 3 either. So it's just this kind of issue. I know he
But
can
Stu
make
can actually
them,
hurt
but
them. That's the thing.
I know, but yeah,
But
it's
then you're
tricky.
super undersized.
Yeah,
because now you're talking about like the tallest guy there is 6'8", maybe, and while Asar is bigger, like he's getting bigger, he's still smaller than Tobias, right? So you're gonna have basically 4 guards, 4 wings, and then an undersized center as your starting unit. That's terrifying. Versus if he comes in for THJ, now you're big, right? Because now you've got big point guard, big small forward, big average power forward, you're more switchable in that sense. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I don't know if he's going to do it, but it'd be interesting.
it's tricky because it's like maybe sometimes I think like, and I've said this a lot, so but sometimes I think maybe we slightly like as long as you got THJ in there and Ivy can keep hitting catch and shoots, maybe we're just overthinking the spacing just a little bit with if you can bring Asar into the starting lineup, just with what he can bring. Like his speed and athleticism, like they really miss that defensively, especially to start games. So I just
I
think he
agree.
could be a really useful injection, even if it makes things a bit clunky because you've got Duran at the center. But like I'm still with you how you opened it. It's like when they have losses like this, and I know even in wins they've had slow starts. Like it's easy to go, we need to change the starting lineup, but it's not like they just went 3-1 like on a West Coast trip. Like so, if you're JB, I know there's sort of these advanced metrics, but like you look at the win column, they're 14 and 18. Like with this lineup, pretty much whenever it's been healthy, he's gone to it. So it's tricky.
Yeah. I do think a change needs to happen. Like I think there are things that need done, but I don't know if it's internal. Like I don't know if he can really do and we'll talk. I know you wanted to talk about this in terms of, but before I do that, I want to shout out Ivy was super efficient tonight. He was fun to watch.
Yes.
He had some great reads. He had this beautiful skip pass. I think it was in the third
Second
quarter,
quarter.
but
Yeah.
the second quarter he had, and the guy clanked it. But but he had a couple like, and I mean, Cade's passing has been unreal too. Like but like Ivy really, I think is starting to figure it out. And he still jumps
So
from time to time and throws things. He still gets ahead of himself for sure. But tonight, his passing looked really really sharp tonight, and I think he's efficient from the field, so I really think he's coming into his own.
great shout, Kyle. I was literally going to him next. So efficiency for JR. He returned the first game of the road trip. All 4 games, he has shot over 50% from the field. All 4 games, he's made 2 or more threes. All 4 games, he's shot over 40% from 3. He's actually shot over 50% from 3 in 3 of those games, and he shot 3 of 7 against the Kings and hit the biggest 3 of the season. So, like, he was clearly that knee soreness and toe issue was affecting him. Like,
Oh yeah,
no, the way, like the passing, the way he's driving, which is opening up like that lefty skip pass, like, and like some of the finishes, even tonight, like he's a different player than the guy I saw those last 6 games before he was out. Like he was settling for heaps of threes, not getting into the paint as much. And yeah, he's been a huge bright spot on this road trip.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just enjoy watching him play, and I remember saying this back when we were streaming. Like, it would not surprise me if Jaden Ivey ultimately he may never be better than Cade, but I think he might always be the favorite. Just the way he plays. Now, Cade's like exceeded that because he's going to be an all-star, and I think he's coming into who he's going to be. But I always thought Jaden Ivey's style was like the potential to just win people over. And I think I'm enjoying watching him play. I think he deserves it. And it's just sweet to see him put everything from last year behind him, and at least seemingly, and really be able to come out and know who he is. And it's nice to have a coach who knows who he is, puts him in positions to succeed. And yeah, so that was another thing fun about tonight.
Yeah, definitely. No, I definitely want to spend some time talking about him because, he hit that crazy shot. And he was obviously the main story out of that Kings game, but like he's been really good since returning from injury, efficient. I didn't see the turnover stats here, but like just to see him get back to this, because this is where he was preseason and the start of the season. So hopefully he can just stay healthy and we can get a really good understanding of where he's at, because I think you and I have been kind of in lockstep on the fact that like you extend him, but there was some time just before that injury that he went out that I was a bit like, oh, I'm a bit worried here, but it seems like it was injury. So hopefully he can stay healthy and stay on this trajectory. The third thing I had on here to talk about before I go through some questions was Michael Porter Jr. Man, this is your area of expertise, Carl. We obviously did an episode on the channel, so go check it out. Got lots of feedback on that episode. That was probably one of the best, most popular things I posted on YouTube in a minute. So the people loved your trades, Carl. I just
Except for
think
the people
Michael
in the
Porter
comments.
Jr.
Everyone who watched it liked it, but the comments, people hated
but
it.
that's
It's
okay.
YouTube comments. We don't care about those.
That's okay. That's okay. Like, I thought they were all really realistically put together trades. Whether the realistic possibility is as high, like I think for a lot of fake trades, that's hard to get. But like Michael Jr., just watching him shoot the ball, like he drew free throws off a 3. Like he gets so much elevation. Like he would be,
dude. Watching
Dude,
it
him at
tonight
the
was just
4,
like,
I know the defense, but like on offense, like imagine Cade kicking it to him. Like honestly,
dude,
like
and he repositions so well for a guy his size. Like he's not just a I stand in the corner, I can knock him down. Like he's a movement shooter. Like he can get to his spots and and repositions really well from what I can tell. I'm not a huge like scout guy or film guy, but just the eye test, like live game, man, oh man, just guys, start saying your prayers now, right? Like if some reason, like the way this again, the only way this really works, like the Pistons aren't going to trade assets for him.
Yeah.
And you go watch the video. Like I won't rehash the whole thing. Go watch it. But essentially the idea behind getting MPJ was if the Nuggets really feel like they need Levine or Brandon Ingram, either one, doesn't matter. The Pelicans certainly don't want MPJ because they already have a bunch of wings and forwards they can't afford to pay anyone. They're not going to bring him in. So like that would be a natural like, okay, let's send Duran to New Orleans and let we send get to match salaries. We will eat MPJ for the next 2 years or whatever. Same with the Bulls. If they don't want to take on the salary because they're trying to get off of Levine's salary, if that's the whole point of what they're trying to do. Then the Pistons come in. So we'll give you some expirings. We'll give you some assets, even a couple second rounders if we have to. We get MPJ. Everyone else gets what they want, and it makes the cap sheets look really nice for everybody else. That's really what it comes down to. And it doesn't matter if MPJ wants to come or not. If it's a trade, right? We're not talking about signs. We're not talking about free agency. Like this is wherever he doesn't have a no trade clause. It doesn't. It's if Denver decides to pull the trigger, that's what it would look like. Very unlikely, but man, oh man, that would be ideal.
Yeah, as he was making all these threes and just hitting everything. Like I was just thinking about that episode we recorded and the trade. I was just like, oh, he would be so ideal. Like you said, like you don't have to be a film junkie to watch the way he kind of relocates. Just like, and he's playing with Jokic, who just like makes things happen all the time. But like he moves like, and just the way he shoots the ball, like something about it. Like obviously it goes in a lot, but every time he shoots, I'm like, that's going in. Like where he's getting free throws, like he's just, yeah, I feel like he'd be so ideal at that 4 position. Like because then you could obviously play Asar next to him. So whatever you're losing on defense, a little bit, Asar can help make up for that. And then you just figure out who's playing center. Like I don't know who it is, but
it doesn't matter at that point.
Like
I mean,
Ivy, Cade, MPJ, Asar, like
yeah,
we're cooking. Like that's
Listen,
3 20-point per game scorers, an elite wing defender, 3 guys who can pass. Cade, Asar, and Reed. Like that is, we're cooking.
Think of Cade's chemistry with Beasley right now.
Yeah,
and now imagine that Beasley is 6'10" and gets 7 rebounds a game.
Yeah,
right. Okay, imagine THJ. Instead of THJ at the 3, it's Michael Porter Jr. or MPJ's at the 4 and Asar's in the 3. I don't care. And then you can really have Tobias coming off the bench, man. If you want to get crazy, you could have a starting lineup of you could run, or not starting line, but lineups of Cade, Asar, MPJ, Tobias, and Stu. Right? It's just there's so much you could do with that. Well, I don't think it's going to happen, guys. 3-team trades almost never happen the way you think. But yes, he would be an ideal target.
It seems too good to get him in a 3-team trade as well. It's just like if there's a 3-team trade, normally one you're just getting like a pick and a bag contract.
That's what Cleveland did with Jared. Cleveland did this with Jared Allen.
Right? Yeah, true. Was that the Harden trade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where one of those things where and MPJ has been a guy I've been watching for 2 years now because of the Nuggets cap situation as a guy who they could trade for 2 guys to come back and kind of make their cap sheet a little better. And the reality is Denver's not contending right now. They're not doing super well. And so they're not going to stay above the second apron unless unless you're contending, you cannot afford to stay there for more than a year, maybe 2, because it's so restrictive. And then they start losing their first round picks. There are massive penalties. And so at some point they're going to have to make a decision. And it seems like there's already been rumors that MPJ could be on the block in any of those deals. And so just for anyone who thinks it wasn't realistic enough, it's well, this is coming from real intel. He is on the block. And so, that's just kind of where it's coming from. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's it's like you said, it's probably not going to happen. 3-team trades aren't very common, but yeah, I just couldn't help but because I only really watch Pistons at this point in my life. I don't have time to watch other NBA teams, but like getting a chance to watch him tonight for a full game, I was just like, I knew he's playing the best basketball of his career, and obviously on paper he's a good fit. But I was like, oh man, like he would be awesome to pair with Asar in that front court and just the back court, and you figure out the center position. But we shall see. We shall see. I don't really have any other talking points. I'm kind of scanning through some comments here, Kyle. But is there anything else from tonight, or just the road trip overall? I think I mentioned before, but they're 14 and 18 now. They're tied at ninth with the Bulls. They're still at 10th, but yeah, I'm not sure the last time we spoke, but I feel like it was definitely before this road trip. So I don't know. Maybe your thoughts just on the team and the direction now, with how
Yeah.
they've gone recently.
Yeah, I mean, they went 3-1 on a road trip. I don't know the last time they started a West Coast road trip 3-0. I think someone said 2008. So some of y'all might not even been alive. I don't know what your demographic is, Jack, but like, like that's crazy. And so again, and I think the Kings are down. The Lakers are not what the Lakers everyone loves the Lakers to be, but and the Suns are probably also kind of a dumpster fire, but because they have KD and Devin Booker, you don't think they are. So whatever. Like the point is, they just won 3 of their the last 4 games. They're in contention for a play-in spot. This is right where you want them to be, right?
Yeah.
They're on a higher win pace, than we have expected. I have no complaints. Like they're more fun to watch. They've had some crazy endings. This feels like the Vikings a couple years ago, or like the Lions, and I think it was 2011, maybe it was 2015, where like they went 7-0 in one possession games and had like 8 fourth quarter comebacks or something ridiculous like that. Like it kind of feels like that, where it's like this is not sustainable. They're kind of getting lucky on this, but it's better than the opposite. Like they deserve some luck, honestly, what we've been through. So
yeah.
so they've been more fun to watch. The one disappointment I had was no Bobby tonight. I would have loved to see some
Yes.
Bobby Klintman. Like,
So Austin brought this up because this is the game. I was thinking that this is the game where he would get minutes, but of course he's with the Crews.
yeah, so he's probably still doing some conditioning things, which makes sense. I didn't even realize he wasn't there with them, so I guess that makes sense why that didn't happen. But you can tell I'm on vacation. So, yeah, man, I think this is way better than what it has been in the past. It's like we're starting to get expectations, right? So this is where we
Yes.
have as fans, right? We talked about this. Chew the meat, spit out the bones. Like expectations are good. Enjoy having expectations. Like we can't lose our minds every time they lose a game. Like you lose a lot of games in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's just normal, right? So I think that's where just I'm trying to enjoy the wins and the losses if they're not like systemic issues that we see, great. We'll just move on, whatever. Like tonight they were tired as a one-off. There's not a lot of things where I'm like, this happens every game, So I do hope they make a move just because it'll be exciting. I still think it would be worth investing in this team if there's a clear way to upgrade without giving up assets or major assets. I think they should. So I hope they do it, but we'll see what they do. And if they don't, like I can see why they'd ride it out with this crew and see what happens. Because, guys like Miles Turner will be a free agent, most likely. And there will be some guys that they could sign or they'll use it in trades later. But here's to having a good rest of the season, and we're already matched our win total from last year. So everything else is gravy at this point. Like, what are we gonna do?
Can I ask you one more thing and then I'll let you go, Carl? I'm just going to go through that upcoming schedule because, like you said, they've just matched last season's win total, except this time we've still got 50 games to play. This is their next 7 games or 8. Yeah, this is their next 7 games, okay? They play the Magic at home next. Then they have the Hornets at home, Timberwolves at home, Trailblazers at home in the next 4. Then they play the Nets on the road, Warriors at home, and Raptors. So I know I just fired a heap of games at you, but 5 home games in that 7. Um, they play the Nets, the Raptors, some of the lesser teams who they've already beaten. I think someone pointed out in the comments, but like, what, what do you think? How many wins do you think are in there, or what are you expecting across the next? I think that was around 2 weeks of games. Because when they've had these kinds of stretches, they've had some disappointing losses after they've just had some good wins. So that's the thing to keep in mind. But it's still like a really good chance for them to make up for some of those disappointing games.
Right. Yeah, they have a tendency. Young teams have a tendency to play down to their competition. Now, this
Yeah.
team hasn't always done that. I wouldn't say that's what this team has done necessarily. I think they just some have nights where they're just off and they don't have enough talent or like cohesion yet to like make up for when guys are off. Like I think that's more of what it is now than just playing down for most of the games. That being said, I don't know if I have a prediction, but I think they have to get to 500 by the end of the stretch overall with
Wow.
the season.
Yeah.
Like I think in order to, so like they have to, so if it's the next 8 games, they need to win 6 of, or they need to win my brain. They need to win 5 of them. 5.
Yeah.
Right? Because are they 2 games off 500 or 4 games? They're 14 and 18.
They're 14 and 18.
Okay, they need to go 5 and 3. I think maybe
6 and 2.
6 or 6 and 2, like in that range. 6 and 2 would be ideal from to position themselves for the rest of the season. Like you have a 7-game home stretch, you have to win a lot of those, go on a little streak here so that you have room to continue at like to stay in the hunt for the play-in, I think. Now the East is pretty bad, so maybe they can still do that and just go 500 over that stretch. But I think they need to at least be over 500 by the end of that 8-game stretch in order to fully take advantage of it and for us to be feeling positive on the other end. Because if they don't, they go under 500 in a 7-game home stretch against that.
Yeah.
Okay, then the conversation maybe switches to, you ride it out. You hope Cade hits another level and, see what happens. But so, yeah. I don't know if they will, but I think they end at least 1 game over 500. So they go 5 and 3 in that stretch. I think that's what they'll do.
I was going to say 5 and 3. Yeah. I think they should be able to do that. Like you beat the Raptors at home, you beat the Trailblazers at home, you beat the Nets, beat the Hornets at home. Surely you're not going to go 0 and 3 to them. So that's already 4 wins. So if you can beat one of the Magic, Timberwolves, or Warriors, which are all home games as well, then
they're going to beat the Warriors. They'll beat the Warriors.
I think they'll beat the Warriors. Yeah. So
I don't feel good. I don't feel good about the Trailblazers.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't feel good about the Nets.
Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah.
The Hornets, I think you make a good point. You're probably not going to go 0 and 3, but also, like, we haven't looked good against them all season. So we'll see what happens with that.
We'll see. But I think the expectations of 5 and 3 is very reasonable with what we've seen on the road. Even if, like you said, the Suns, aren't trending in the best direction. You can say what you want about the Lakers. Like, still on the road. Like, this team, like you said, they have not won anything on the road, or at least they haven't anything close to a stretch like this on the road since Cade's been here that I can think of. So, I think there's something real they can gain from this recent trip. Like they've had wins in like the NBA Cup over the Pacers and that where I've gotten excited, but then the next game they came out and were horrible. Whereas they did it for like 3 games straight on a West Coast trip. There's something in that. So yeah, man, I'm not sure what the time is for you. I don't want to hold you too long, but any final thoughts?
I think I'll come back to this. Anyone who's worried about losing that draft pick, don't. You're not the GM. You don't need to worry about it. Enjoy this team winning games. If they make the playoffs, because that's what it requires, they have to make the playoffs to lose that pick essentially. I guess technically, if they're the worst team in the lottery, they lose it. It's top 13 protected, right? So there's the worst case scenario is they miss the playoffs and they lose it. Like that would be terrible. But
yeah,
all in all, like enjoy the run. If they lose it, that means you get all your picks back. And 26th draft is pretty good too. Like it means that Cade is playing well enough for them to get them in the playoffs. It means Jaden Ivey's playing well enough. It means maybe they made a move for a guy that's actually worth, don't worry about the draft. If we get it, that's great. And I think that's the ideal. I think they want to keep it. I just we can't worry about it. Like it's time. There's too many young guys anyway. So especially if they don't consolidate, that's the thing. Like if they don't consolidate some of these guys now, like you're not going to be playing 8 guys in your roster under the age of 25 again. You're just not going to do it.
No, I agree. It's a great way to put it. If they'll only lose the draft pick. I know there's some bad luck involved, but if they lose a draft pick, it's because they're an 8 seed in the playoffs, which would be that would be incredible. So,
Yep.
I'm going to let you go, Kyle. Thank you so much for hopping on, my man. Always good to chop it up with you. And guys, as I said, go check out the episode where we went through some fake trades. Kyle did an amazing job of coming up with 5 trades for us to go through because I am absolutely horrible at doing fake trades. So that was a really fun episode. So go check it out if you haven't already. But thank you so much, Kyle.
Yeah, it's been great, man.
All right, brother. We'll talk soon.
Peace.
All right, guys. We're going to scan through the comments here. I'll just make sure no one else has messaged me to come on. Bear with me for one moment. Typically after a loss, it's a bit quieter. Yeah. So, all right, we're going to close it out in a minute here, but I'm just going to go through some of you guys' comments. Shout out to CN Inc., Austin, Nuggies, White Guy Next Door, Mr. Jones, Derek Brown, Sean. Always showing love. If you guys could hit that like button, appreciate it as always. If you haven't subscribed, I'd be grateful if you could, but no stress if you can't. A lot of stuff in here about Tobias, which we spoke pretty extensively on. I think, yeah, like I said in the episode, Tobias, when you look at 2-man combinations for the Pistons, in lineups that have played with players that have played more than 500 minutes together, Tobias and Tim Hardaway have the worst net rating of a -9 in 600 minutes played together. So, in my opinion, it's if you're going to make a change to the starting lineup, it's for one of those two. And Tim Hardaway Jr. is probably the more obvious one because the Pistons' best 5-man unit features Beasley in for THJ. So that's something to look at. I think that lineup there. So yeah, Cade, Ivy, Beasley, Tobias, Jalen Duren in 62 minutes this season have a net rating of +15, which is massive. Only 62 minutes though, so it's a decent sample, but nothing crazy. So that's kind of the most straightforward change I think you could make. Obviously, on paper, that doesn't really help your defense, but I think the issue is THJ is just can be inconsistent with his jumper, whereas Beasley has just been on the money all season. So, yeah, I think for me, you'd probably go Beasley for THJ first, and then if you're not going to do that, I think you would go Asaf for Tobias. But I'm sure everyone has different opinions on that as well. I'm not sure. See, Nick, I'm not sure how Killian Hayes has come up. I know you're joking about this, but I hope Killian's doing all right. I saw he did some fun stuff for the Nets, the Long Island Nets in the G League. So, Nate Robinson chat. Yeah, you guys are hilarious. These chats get more unhinged by the game. Rain says Paul Reed officially leads the team in steals per game while playing less than 12 minutes. Wow, there you go. He he just racks up the steals clearly, which is pretty impressive for a big guy. So interesting, 'cause, like the way he's played recently, like with Stu out, I don't know how you can't find him some minutes. I'm not saying bench Duran or Stewart for him, but maybe there's a way you play all three. Because Paul Reed has certainly made an impact when he's gotten the chance. Like he's peeped Jack on a couple of Detroit Pistons official TikToks. Yeah, that was just those same collabs we did on Instagram, and they're on Twitter and that kind of thing. So very grateful to have the opportunity with the Pistons, and feel like there's a lot more coming. So yeah. As White Guy Next Door says here, moving up in the world. Uh, no, I appreciate you guys. I saw your comment, Nuggies. Obviously, I got back to you on TikTok. Not on TikTok that much. I need to get on there more, but yeah, appreciate you guys supporting me across multiple channels. Oh, here we go. Okay, couple more questions here. Derek Brown, what's up, my brother? Hey, Jack, when are you coming to Detroit? I think I'm gonna have a solid a definitive answer on this in the next week. So as soon as I know, I will put out a tweet and something on Instagram just so people know. Not because I think I'm a big deal, just because honestly, there's been lots of people message me who I've known for a long time who want to know. So I will get to people individually, but I'll also put something out because yeah, I want to make sure I'm catching up with all of you guys as well. But like I said, Derek, I think I'll have some dates in definitely the next week. So um, Austin. Jack, this is super random, but I just remember we talked about it a while ago. Did you ever watch that clip of the Hornets announcer doing the UCF football call? Yes, I've watched it because I watched like a compilation of his like best calls, and there was a one from the football. Yeah, he's. Who did I? You know what's funny, Austin? I had someone on here didn't like Eric Collinsworth. I can't remember who came up. Oh, I was shocked. I feel like everyone loved the Hornets announcer. I think he's great. Like, yes, he's a little bit over the top, but I think, especially for a team like the Hornets, who I'm not even trying to like shit on them, but have just been like such a dull franchise. Like, he's like a blessing for them. Like him, and I feel like LaMelo gets the most attention there, but like Eric Collinsworth might be second in the pecking order there. Like he's awesome. Derek Brown, Jack, you're a big deal. No, I'm not. I appreciate it though. And yeah, I agree, Austin. He's one of the best for sure. Eric Collinsworth. He's unreal. I think that's gonna do it, guys. You guys are the best. The show, I really feel like this post game show is growing, and it only does because of you guys in the comments here. Like, you know who you are, always keeping it going. But yeah, even after a loss, like I'm surprised with how many have tuned in. So I appreciate all you guys generating conversation in the chat. And yeah, I love reading it. Like I said, you guys feels like you're all getting to know each other more, and the commentaries I can just you guys are gelling. So yeah, I appreciate you all because yeah, you guys having that commentary there is huge. So thank you so much for all your comments and discussion. It helps the show so much. So that's going to do it for today, guys. Bit of a disappointing loss, but awesome road trip for the Pistons. And I think the Pistons have got a few days off now. So I think we'll be back on January 2nd. So enjoy some time off from Pistons hoops. And as always, go Pistons.